All right, welcome into the H&H podcast. Henry and Hicks, that's the name of it. That's what we've come up with. At least finally. Yeah. We think we got something. We're rolling with a little bit of something. But Henry, Lake, Ahmad Hicks, we do this on a weekly. And where do we begin today? We begin with I guess we can recap the WNBA All-Star Weekend.
We kind of left it out last week on the episode.
Yeah, and we should go back to it because it was a big deal.
Huge weekend.
And I guess start with the hometown MVP. Napheesa Collier was doing her thing.
She's just making a statement, I feel like, with this season. Because you know what, Henry? Yeah. I don't know if you were in New York last year for the final game against the Liberty in the WNBA Finals where they lost, and they should have won. But that foul call at the end of the game sent Breanna Stewart to the free throw line to help send it to overtime. And I just remember Napheesa Collier after the game this can't happen. This is not right. How do we only get so many calls? And I've never seen her that fired up. Yeah. And then entering this season, you can just kind of tell they have a different sense of motivation. They felt like they were robbed last year, and Napheesa Collier is just playing like a woman on another planet right now.
Yeah, she is. She's playing with a purpose, and you can tell that she's fired up off of what happened last year because it felt like there were multiple times during that series where they got bad calls, and I think that's the reason why a lot of people looking it feels like they got robbed in a certain way.
They did.
Cheryl Reeve, she was really, really upset about it, and I think that all Minnesotans were fired up about it. Yeah. But I also think that when you look at the way that she's played this year, she is letting everybody know that, it ain't just about my defense. I can do it all. I can do anything that you want me to do. And so last year, she was the Defensive Player of the Year. This year, she's going to win the MVP.
Yeah, and you know the thing that I love most about Napheesa Collier, she's been a winner her entire life. Yeah. I mean, she barely lost games at UConn. Then you come here and, you play for a team that had a target on their back because of all the success that they've had, but they had a couple of down years. Now she's starting to, reemerge as that superstar that she's always been throughout her entire career, even dating back to when she played ball in St. Louis. I was there, so I kind of knew about her, before she went on the national stage. So it's fun.
So wait, she's not from the Louis.
She's from Missouri, so she grew up a couple of hours outside of Mizzou, but she transferred to play for Ursuline Academy. It's the top girls basketball program in St. Louis. They go undefeated every season.
You better claim her.
Year. You know what I'm saying? From St. Louis. Well, she represents St. Louis, and her husband, is actually from St. Louis, and he's a basketball trainer from there as well. So, close ties to the crib and whatnot. But she's playing out of this world, and I think the one thing that she's doing, she's uplifting those around her. And she talked about that the other day after the All-Star break. She said, I've never been quite a vocal leader. She was like, but now I feel like, not only is my play speaking for, itself on the court, she was like, but I'm also learning to speak up and be that person in the locker room or pull someone to the side, say, hey, this is what we need to do to get over that hump, and that's what this team needs.
And I think that, her voice being so big right now, I think that from a leadership perspective, she's one of the bigger voices in the WNBA. You look at what she's done with Unrivaled, and the fact that right now they're in the midst of this conversation or negotiation with the collective bargaining agreement, and they come out and they're wearing the T-shirts talking about, hey, you got to pay us what we're worth, right? I think that was big, and to be on the big stage and to have the spotlight in Indy, and you got Caitlin Clark there, even though she didn't participate and play due to injury. I think that's a big time deal.
It's major because, honestly, if you want to create change, you have to get everybody on the same page. And I think sometimes that's where we see the disconnect in the NFL, the NBA, because at the end of the day, these guys are like, I have mouths to feed. I have families to take care of. So I can't go, take a knee or protest like, some other people will. Whereas in the WNBA, they're just unified step by step in everything that they do. And so Napheesa Collier said basically they're not budging on revenue sharing and they're not budging on salary.
And they should.
And she said they let that be known in their latest CBA talks with WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbrecht over the weekend in Indianapolis. So who knows where it's going to go, but we all know this is the beginning stages of the WNBA. As they continue to expand, as they continue to get bigger, TV deals, broadcast deals, well, they're doing right by themselves right now because they say, hey, we're losing money right now. Cool. But in 5 to 6 years, this could be a league that's profiting $100 million a year, and we want a slice of that pie before you start getting it.
And I'll be honest, I tend to question when NBA teams or any professional sports teams say that they're losing with regards to revenue. I get it. There are certain instances you can look and you can see empty seats and empty arenas and, in Oakland and stuff like that. It's not going over well. But when we start talking about the revenue, the deals that are coming up in terms of streaming and all, I'm not so sure that they're not turning over a profit at this specific point.
Even if they're not, they will be soon.
Yeah.
You look at the popularity of these players that are coming to the league. Like last year, it was Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Then this past year, it was Paige Beckers. Then you're talking about in a couple of years, it's going to be Juju Watkins. Then you got Sarah Strong from UConn. Like, it's endless talent that's coming to the WNBA that also has their own following before they got there. And they have their fans and their viewers and their listeners that want to be a part of them. And I think one thing that's helping the WNBA and one thing that helped them tremendously this past weekend, the StudBudz. Napheesa Heidemann and Courtney Williams.
So you got to tell me about that because I'm not exactly sure what all the hype is about. Is it just their personality and them just kind of coming out and just being who they are?
Did you see their clips this past weekend?
I didn't see all of it. Okay. I saw a few things where they were kind of out and about and they're kicking it and having fun, whatever, but I didn't see everything.
I got to show you some of the best clips when we get done here. But StudBudz, for those of you who don't know, Napheesa Heidemann and Courtney Williams, they are players on the Lynx team, and on their days off, they happen to live stream on Twitch, just their off day, talking about the games, their opponents, what they got going on, all that stuff. So they did a 72-hour live stream from Indianapolis, just giving us an inside look.
Wait, 72 hours straight?
Yes. 72 hours straight. So I don't even think they slept. It was crazy. But they had the WNBA commissioner dancing with them. Cheryl Reeves, the head coach for the Lynx, dancing with them. They had DJ Diplo, one of the most famous DJs in the world, asking him to turn off his type of music and play some R&B. And then it just shows the camaraderie of the WNBA. Yeah. Because, there's a lot of narratives out there right now about how, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark hate each other, or how this team hates this team and this player's beefing with this player. And then you got an inside glimpse of the W on their stream, and everyone's getting along. They're partying with one another, and it's something a lot different than you see with men professional athletes. Like when it comes to All-Star Weekend, things like that, they're going with their own entourage, their own crew. They're doing their own thing. Whereas the WNBA all partied with one another all weekend long, and they enjoyed each other's company. And we wouldn't have gotten a chance to see all of that stuff if it wasn't for StudBudz. And at one point, they had 18,000 people watching live on Twitch. Cheryl Reeves said her young son, asked her to download Twitch on his phone so he could watch it. And she was like, funny. I don't know if this is appropriate for you, but so it just gave everybody an inside look, and I think it kind of helped put the W on a platform. It's like, man, these women have personalities, and they're actually good people to follow behind. Yeah,
and with every sports league, it is one big fraternity or sorority or family. And I think with the WNBA, I agree with you 100%. Like, they are pretty, close-knit. They're tight. And I think that the hate that people are trying to promote or say is in the league, I don't believe that's a thing. Like, is there going to always be some jealousy and envy? Of course. That's just going to happen. But I think that when you look across the board, they do get along and they do try to have each other's backs.
Yeah, and that's the one thing Cheryl Reeves said. She said, basically what you saw.
And the competitors.
Yeah, they are competitors. and everybody gets a little feisty when they compete and things like that. And Cheryl Reeves kind of said it. She was like, that podcast and StudBudz, what they did was they showed the world that these women are now allowed to be themselves. And she said a couple of years ago, you couldn't be out. You couldn't do, the things that they were doing this weekend. And Courtney Williams said it best, they're the queer community. They're the gay community in the WNBA, and it's all like a family for them.
And they have fun with it. Like here locally, my sports crush, she came out last month, and she playfully on Instagram was like, why does everybody think that I'm gay? It was Alana Smith. And it was so funny because it was because, whenever we have, especially with the WNBA, there are stereotypes.
Absolutely.
And one of the main stereotypes that's there is that all of the women are lesbian, and that is not true.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
it was funny the way she put it out.
She's like, that was also on StudBudz.
Yeah, and the photo, she's like, what's going on? What did I do? I'm just being myself.
It's the one thing I love about StudBudz. You literally can just get an inside glimpse of who these athletes are off the court. And I think that's the one thing that the WNBA hasn't done a great job spotlighting outside of Caitlin Clark is who these women are outside of the court. And I think Angel Reese and all of them are doing a tremendous job. So better years to come. Hopefully they get paid. Hopefully they get a new CBA agreement, because the last thing we want to see is the start of the 2026 season delayed, if they can't reach an agreement. So we're rooting for them, and obviously rooting for the Lynx, to bring home a finals championship this year. Now, with that being said, training camp has kicked off here in Minnesota.
Let's go.
An exciting time for all Vikings fans, for all football fans. I got all my homies hitting me up from back home talking about activate our fantasy football league so we can do some mock drafts. The excitement is building right now, Lake. So when you look at this Vikings team, Or have you been out to TCO yet?
I haven't been yet, yeah.
Okay, you haven't been out there yet, but what are you most looking forward to see this preseason?
Well, I think there are a couple of different things. First off, everybody is looking to see how J.J. McCarthy's going to play, right? Like we know he's a starting quarterback. We know that we'll probably get some glimpses of him looking good during the preseason, probably have some mistakes in the preseason. And, you'll just have to try to see how he kind of matures over the course of the preseason until we get into the regular season.
Right.
But it doesn't like preseason matters, but then again, everything's on the line week one. For sure. Secondly, as my eyes are a little bit watery here.
Good. Allergies, huh?
Yeah, I think a little bit of allergies. But to me, the most important thing, well, it's not more important than JJ because JJ is a quarterback. But man, I got questions about that secondary.
Do you now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we all have questions about the secondary.
I have a few too.
You what?
I have a few too.
Okay, and right now Jeff Okudah
he's starting.
Yeah, I know.
And Isaiah Rodgers and Byron Murphy. So the number one corner pairings right now is Isaiah Rodgers, who just came over from Philadelphia, won a Super Bowl there. Him and Byron Murphy are your starting 1A, 1B corners. And then when they go nickel and Byron Murphy goes inside, Jeff Okudah comes out there. So those are your three starting cornerbacks right now for the Minnesota Vikings. Then behind them, you have Dwight McGlothern, who was a rookie last season, I think.
McGlovern?
Yeah. And I think people who are here in Minnesota are going to love him. If he can get a chance to play, this is a guy look, he can really create a name for himself.
Okay.
Nudie is his nickname. I think he's a baller. Then you also got Mekhi Blackman. Tore his ACL last year, very first day of training camp. So
who they would like to see elevate and step into being the player that they thought that he would be, but then unfortunately got injured.
Yep. And so he's running with the twos right now.
Okay.
So it is, when you look at that cornerback room outside of Byron Murphy Jr., it's a little unproven.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of people are saying, do we need to go out there and go get another proven cornerback, someone that can take away one side of the field? Well, here's my take. Brian Flores doesn't allow a defensive back or a cornerback to come in if he doesn't think that he can utilize him to the best of his ability and to the best of the skill set of the team and the defense. I think he watched enough tape on Jeff Okudah and Isaiah Rodgers to say, you know what? With my guys that I have on that front seven, Javon Hargrave, Jonathan Allen, Harrison Phillips, Andrew Van Ginkel, Jonathan Grenard, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter who plays cornerback because it absolutely does. But you got to think, if most quarterbacks have 4 seconds to throw the ball with an average defensive line, well, with the Vikings defensive line, you're only going to have about 2 seconds to throw the ball. So that means your cornerbacks don't have to be elite. They just have to be good and serviceable.
Well, I said this a couple of nights ago on the show. When you look at Jeff Okudah, the issue isn't his talent.
Yeah.
He was a top 3 pick.
He was.
It's been injuries.
Mm-hmm.
If Jeff Okudah can get past the injuries, you might have something there. You might have a reclamation project. You might have somebody that they were casted off because they had injury after injury or issue after issue, and then they found a place that they could call home and really, all it takes is staying healthy, you regain your confidence. Mm-hmm. And then once you regain your confidence and everybody believes in you, you can elevate to another level.
Confidence is everything when you play in that cornerback position, too. So, yes, I agree with you. I mean, I think it's a steal for Brian Flores in this defense to get a top 3 overall pick. One of the best corners coming out of Ohio State. Didn't have any holding penalties or anything like that his final year playing with the Buckeyes. So, my thing is, if he can just stay healthy, like you said, man, fans are going to make love him this season, I feel like, with what he's able to do. So
but there's a lot of question marks, though. That's the one thing about it. You don't really know that, like you mentioned, outside of Murphy, everybody else is kind of like you're scratching your head about it.
I know.
But having faith in Brian Flores means everything. And I do.
The good thing for cornerbacks, though, you got a safety option back there. You got Harrison Smith and you got Josh Metellus and you got Theo Jackson. Theo Jackson, big shoes to fill. Cam Bynum, he's gone down to Indianapolis. So I think Theo Jackson will run with the twos, but he did play a lot last year when Harrison Smith got a blow and they, tried to, get a little younger and athletic in the secondary. But Josh Metellus is one of those guys. He deserves to be paid a lot more money. He's a Swiss Army knife. He plays every position on the football field. I think last season he lined up at 10 different positions on game day in the defense. And so, he got an extension before the season last year, but he certainly outplayed that extension. So I think now we're kind of entering that time in training camp. He participated day 1. He said he was a leader. He needed to be out there. Then day 2, kind of took a step back because he had an ankle injury or something like that. But we've seen in years past when players do this early in camp, dealing with contract negotiations, they're typically sitting out until they get paid.
Yeah, so this one I'm torn on because I love Josh Metellus.
Uh-oh.
I love the fact that I'd like to see him get paid, but they're going to use him differently now with Cam Bynum being out. Mm-hmm. It sounds like they're going to – I'm not saying he's going to be more of a traditional safety, but, I mean, I wonder how they're going to – I'm not saying they're not going to use him the way that they have,
right,
but it sounds like they might not have him do as many things as what he's been doing. So is that an angle for them to say, look, we're not going to, maybe necessarily give you what you want from a salary perspective because we're just going to use you differently now? I just don't know that that's the play if you're trying to talk to him like that. And to your point, like the way that they have utilized him, he's been amazing.
He has been amazing. And, it's so funny because Brian Flores was asked about the traditional safety role and Cam Bynum and Josh Metellus, and he said, traditional really doesn't fit my defense. And he said it with a smirk, you know what I'm saying? So I have no idea where Josh Metellus is going to line up, and I don't think quarterbacks or opposing offenses know where he's going to line up, and that's the luxury that the Vikings have. So I think contract talks probably will wrap up before the season starts. He certainly deserves to be paid. Now, is it Kirby Joseph type money, top safety in the league? It's debatable. It depends on who's cashing that check. But I certainly think he's an instrumental part to this Vikings defense, and the Vikings defense wouldn't be as good without Josh Metellus.
Hey, real quick, I'll make a prediction. If this defense is as good as it was last year,
I think they'll be better.
I think that Brian Flores is gone at the end of the year. I think he gets a head coaching job.
That's another conversation for another day.
I know.
That we can go in depth about that, but we're going to save that for another day. I'm rooting for B-Flow. But that's just an uphill battle for him with that lawsuit and everything. But we'll dive into that just a little bit later. Now, since we're talking about football, let's end this week's episode talking about college football. NIL. It's something we discussed extensively throughout the show and before. And just recently, President Donald Trump signed an executive order. Nothing is happening right now with the college landscape, but what he's doing with that executive order is saying, save college athletics. Basically, what he's trying to do is put a salary cap on how much these teams can actually pay their players and things like that. I think in his statement or executive order, he said, some schools are paying, their football teams or whatever, $50 million. And that's too much money. So what they're trying to do is add more scholarships to those Olympic type sports and basically just regulate how much money a player can make. What do you think about that?
I don't like that.
Me neither.
It's not American.
I think it's trying to put the control back in the coaches and the school's hands instead of the players' hands where it is now.
Yeah, but it's just, to me, it's fundamentally against what we are here in America. Like, we are a capitalist country. Mm-hmm. Like, we have a capitalist society. It's based on get what you can get.
Right.
And so how are we going to go against the grain with that now? And then, is there a part of me that says or doesn't like the fact that the Ohio States, the LSUs, the all these big, that they're going to continue to get the big money and be able to get the best players, and players will kind of navigate between the same 25 to 30 institutions? No, I don't like that. I'd love to see other institutions be able to get into the mix more. But on the other hand, are we going to cap what coaches make? I don't think we capping what coaches make. We ain't capping what coaches make.
And it's funny because position coaches out here making like $400,000 a year. I follow one. He came from St. Louis.
Well, doesn't Ohio State have an assistant coach that's making $1 million?
Yeah, for sure. Offensive defensive coordinators make $1 million a year, and then position coaches like a tight ends coach can make $400,000 a year. Crazy. I know, it's pretty wild.
That's crazy.
And so look, I'm kind of like you said, I want to see the smaller schools still be competitive. Like, I don't want to turn on Saturday college football and know that I can only watch the SEC games to be competitive, to see a competitive football game. So that's the one thing that I don't dislike, that I dislike right now about the way that the NIL landscape is changing. Do I love that players can go get their bags? Absolutely, because we see coaches leave every single year for a bigger contract. Yep. They decrease their buyouts so they're able to leave and go somewhere else. PJ Fleck in Minnesota have done that, shrunk his buyout clause. So if he wants to leave and go elsewhere, they don't have to pay $5 million or something like that. So, look, should there be some regulation? Yes.
I agree.
I don't think you should be able to go spend $60, $70 million on a football team. Like, you gotta share that, because I think the people that are kind of losing in this is the other sports, the women's sports, the smaller sports. Like, I get it. You don't bring in $100 million a year, so you shouldn't get $20 million a year to divvy up. But it's like, hey, athletics makes a university. Like, if your athletics are successful and your team is going on to win a national championship, you're capitalizing off that. You're profiting off that. Not as much as a national championship in football, but still a wrestling championship, a baseball championship, that still means something. Yep. And so I think we need to make sure that we don't lose sight of these other sports because they are important.
Yeah. There's one last thing I did want to get to, and I agree with you on that, is the passing of Hulk Hogan. He passed yesterday at the age of 71, and there are a couple things because I'm conflicted. My view on Hulk Hogan is this. He is the Michael Jordan of wrestling.
You can say that, yeah.
He made wrestling what it is today.
Right.
Like he is going to forever be one of the faces. Yeah, wrestling was great. It was amazing. There were a lot of really good wrestlers in the AWA, and then we get into, WWE and all the WWF and all that stuff, whatever. But he's the Michael Jordan of wrestling. And I loved him as a kid. But in life, when you find out more about people and they show their true colors, and they have incidents that pop up, you have to divorce yourself from that person. And I ended up, many years ago, divorcing myself from being a Hulk Hogan fan because, of the racist incidents that he had that were caught on video. The Gawker stuff came up, and everything. So, it's tough, as guys because we're sports fans and we appreciate what people bring to the table, their celebrity, their talent, their fame.
For sure.
When that person kind of, loses their way or they show or reveal themselves to have so many different flaws that you just can't get past, it does hurt. I mean, of course, rest in peace to him. 71 years. I mean, 71. That's pretty young.
Right.
But yeah, those are kind of like my thoughts about him.
Do you think that people have become insensitive to death nowadays? And the way that they kind of disrespect the dead?
I don't think so.
I saw this on Facebook, so it just made me wonder what you thought about it.
I think that people, I think yes and no. I think overall no. I'd say yes, though, from the standpoint of if that person was viewed in a negative light, then I think that people aren't as respectful.
Right.
You should respect the dead nonetheless.
For sure.
Whether they were an evil person, whether they were a saint, regardless of where their standing was, you have a right to maybe have an axe to grind to get somebody. But once a person passes, it's over.
Yeah.
And you should be respectful and mourn their passing. I think that, like, for instance, Malcolm Jamal Warner.
Yep.
Big part of my childhood.
Mine too.
I hadn't heard a bad thing or anybody disrespect him in death. Not one person say anything negative. Now, of course, Hulk Hogan, people going to feel a certain way. So I think it's the perception of the person.
Yeah, I think, look, I was kind of like you said, grew up, knew Hulk Hogan, watched his reality TV shows, oh, man, this lives a nice life.
Yep.
And then once you get older, a little smarter, you start to read a little bit more, you start to get a little bit more informed. And
More's revealed.
And it's all right, well, maybe I'm not a fan of this guy. So it's I don't dislike him, but it's also you can't respect him.
Yeah.
Especially the way that he's treated our community, the things that he's come out and said, and, the lack of support that he gave people in our community. I'll never forget, he was trying to promote his beer, and he went somewhere, and it was a black young lady there to promote his beer. She had signed up, paid for everything, and he got there. It was I'm not doing this, and he was I don't want her to promote my brand. And it's just how can you respect people like that?
I agree, but there's a difference though. There's a difference between respecting someone and disrespecting them when they dead.
Oh, see, now I won't disrespect anybody when they die.
Yeah.
But it's also it's hard for me. I can understand where people are coming from. It's hard to sympathize with somebody who didn't really have empathy for our community and our kind. I'm not going to go out there and go bash you, but it's also at the same time, it's well, you didn't respect my people in my community, so it's I shouldn't go give you a 5-minute obit in my sports package. Although you did have a great legacy and you meant a lot to a lot of people,
absolutely,
we also can't ignore what you did to a lot of other people in the hurtful comments. So, rest in peace to Hulk Hogan. 71 great years, like you said, young at that, he trailblazer for sure.
Absolutely.
But he also has to be known for some of the other things, controversial things that he did later in his career. So, but we'll respect him. But yeah, so any other thing that you want to mention about him?
Man, that's pretty much it. But you got to give it to him. He was the Michael Jordan of wrestling.
He was. All right, so we didn't talk about the Twins this week, but make no mistake about it, we'll touch back on them next week.
Homestand.
They came back after the All-Star break, and they lost 2 games to Colorado. Like you said on one of these shows, you said they can't do that if they want to make the playoffs.
And they did that.
And they did exactly that. So we're going to talk about that on next week's episode. Of course, keep you guys up to date on everything that's happening with Vikings training camp and the links as they kind of, quest to vie for another WNBA title. So that's H&H, the Henry and Lake show, and Henry and Hicks show.
Henry and Hicks.
Still trying to get it all figured out, but we'll be back with another episode next week. We appreciate you all tuning in.